the most comprehensive document that we have relating to natural therapeutics with a focus on herbalism relating to influenza. It's a collation of a series of articles pulled together by Paul Bergner, who is one of the foremost herbalists in the country and has one of the finest herbal training programs. And he's been writing extensively about influenza for the last few years. There's a wealth of information in there.
And he's been, oh, can I just,
yeah.
I did a course with Paul back in the early 90s, and he was talking about getting people prepared for a pandemic. So this has really been on his radar and for a long time. So, yeah.
There's another document up there about epidemic influenza and vitamin D. We'll get into this topic just a little bit shortly. A couple more. One on the pathology of influenza virus infections. What we're finding is that pandemic influenzas are essentially very, 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 very similar to seasonal influenzas. They kill more people, but the way they kill them is the way seasonal influenzas kill people. So essentially, a lot of lessons that we have derived from dealing with seasonal influenza apply equally to pandemic influenza to a degree. All right.
You want to talk about vitamin D?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So some weeks ago, when I first really began trying to get the story together around helping people learn a little bit more about how to approach this pandemic, I was spending a lot of time focusing on vitamin D. And the reason for that was because I stumbled into just a tidal wave of evidence, largely at Paul Bergner's pointing, relating to the relationship between people's vitamin D levels and their ability to resist influenza infection, and also to lessen the severity of influenza once it was caught. I've since backed off my vitamin D research markedly in the last 3 to 4 weeks. And one of the main reasons for that is because the vitamin D story has basically exploded on the national scene. I was in my local Fred Meyer's a week or so ago, and I just went into the sort of the organic section, and the guy who puts the soy milk on the shelves and puts the supplements on the shelves. I said, "Are you talking to anybody about swine flu at this juncture?" He said, "Vitamin D." I was like, "Oh, goodness gracious me!" I mean, he knew about it. The evidence in support of vitamin D supplementation, and there's a wealth of it out there, is simply astounding. To be quite blunt, there are a whole series of studies that show that taking vitamin D is far more effective, for example, than vaccinations in preventing influenza. It has a specific affinity for improving the immunological response of the respiratory tract, in preventing infection and in modifying the inflammatory response if you do actually catch influenza. As I said 3 weeks ago, I was prepared to speak for an hour on this topic, but I'll keep it pretty short. There have been some concerns through the years about toxicity related to vitamin D intake. For many years, the recommended daily intake of vitamin D, I forget what the official body is that determines these sort of official levels, had it slated at about 2,000 IUs a day. Common consensus these days is that that is very much on the low side. And what people are now suggesting is that a safe limit is up to 10,000 IUs a day. Now, that for me, I'm currently, I told off to my buddies at Sundance, who work in the herbal section of Sundance, and I said, "What the heck's vitamin D? Which form of it should I take?" And they basically said vitamin D3. And this is what they recommended. They said it's far less expensive than anything you're going to find in a pill form. And it basically comes in a drop form. It's 2,000 IUs per drop. Take it the way you take a drop dosage herbal tincture. That's that's 4,000 IUs for me. And I actually find that once I get up to above 6, it feels like enough for me. 4 to 6 feels enough for me. But I suspect that I'm not deficient in vitamin D, because basically the way you synthesize it, the way you pick it up, is by being in sunshine. One of the problems we face at this particular latitude is that most of us, for the most part, are not getting enough sunshine. It's very likely that your vitamin D levels are going to be deficient. If you're darker skinned, it's even more likely that your vitamin D levels are going to be deficient, particularly if you're extremely dark skinned. If you're obese, vitamin D tends to be fat. What's the word fat?
Fat soluble.
Fat soluble. So, again, more likelihood that you're going to be vitamin D deficient. You can pick up a test. You can ask a doctor to have you tested for your vitamin D levels, or you can go to a very useful website on the web. It's called the Vitamin D Council, and they offer very inexpensive testings for vitamin D levels. And there's a lot of information there that will tell you what sort of levels you're looking to come in at. Right now, what I'm suggesting, for example, to my mother, who I suspect is highly, older people as well tend to have lower vitamin D levels. What I'm suggesting to my mother as a sort of a course of treatment to prepare her for the winter is about 10,000 IUs a day for a month, and then bring it down to 4,000 IUs. And I suspect that that's on the safe side. I'm seeing some people recommend 40,000 IUs a day for up to 4 to 6 weeks, followed by daily doses down to 4,000 IUs.
Isn't it possible if you take too much, it can be toxic? Because it's
yes,
stored in fat.
yeah, but what we're seeing is a vast array of evidence is that the levels you need to hit for those levels of toxicity are extremely high. It's not uncommon, for example, for elders or for people dealing with rickets to be given 600,000 IU dose all-in-once, a megadose injection. And for these very high levels to be given to people over time with no apparent side effects.
And then how long does it stay in the body? Like when you take a dose?
I've had difficulty finding information about that. Some of the information tells me it has a half-life of about a month. And then other information tells me that basically if you stack up on your sunshine in the summer, it should carry you through most of the winter. My sense is that I'm probably going to look at coming in at about 4,000 IUs a day through the course of the winter, through the course of the fall and the winter. That's all I'm doing.
You take a drop salt.
4,000 IUs a day. Yeah.
I was wondering about St. John's wort.
Yeah.
If you didn't know about that, because there is research that says that it helps your body synthesize vitamin D. So I was wondering two things about supplementing, just taking St. John's wort in tincture form throughout the winter, or using St. John's wort oil on your body, like externally, every day, if that would also do a similar sort of thing. Do either of you have any idea about that?
That's interesting. I know that Cascade Anderson Geller, local in the Pacific Northwest, she lives outside of Portland. Mm-hmm. She uses St. John's wort oil as a sunscreen, mm-hmm. which is pretty interesting. So, I have never talked with her about the mechanism of action for that. Yeah. But you're less likely to burn if you have your vitamin D stores, and you assimilate all your vitamin D before you burn, before that sort of burning point. So I would say, yeah, I don't know, but it's a great topic. It's something that's great to consider. Yeah.
And I've always been convinced that the reason St. John's wort is taken for depression is because it opens you up to more sunshine.
Yeah.
And my sense is that taking St. John's wort and getting outside in the winter is the thing to be doing. Yeah. But we do have an issue in the sense that basically until the sun crosses the sort of the 45-degree angle, you're not going to be getting the sunshine that you need in order to synthesize. And in this part of the world, we don't